Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Couch Brotato Podcast. It's week 2 of our unconventional Christmas movie month, and we've got an absolute classic in store for you guys and gals today. We are covering Rocky IV, and I know what you're thinking, is Rocky IV really a Christmas movie? It might be a bit of a stretch, but I think I got a compelling case to change your mind. And I've also got producer Adam and Jason joining us on today's show to help solidify that case. So, after this trailer, the Couch Brotato Podcast presents to you Rocky IV.
He could have stopped the fight. He could have saved his best friend's life. But now, the one thing he can't do is walk away.
He's had one professional fight, and one man is dead.
Baby, you'll have to kill me.
You can't win!
Rocky IV, rated PG. Now playing. Check newspapers for a theater near you.
All right, producer Adam is joining me on the show, and we got a special guest joining us today. Jason, how's it going, man? Long time no hear.
It's been a while. I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well. I thought that with our episode that we're doing today that we take Adam's vast movie knowledge. He's like a super villain of movie knowledge, and then you love the Rocky movies as much as I do. So yeah. I figured this would be a perfect sandwich of an episode this evening. And if you guys skipped right past the intro, which I don't blame you, I don't like the sound of my voice either. We're doing Rocky IV today, which is the second part of our unconventional Christmas movie month. Do either one of you gentlemen consider this a Christmas movie? I do. I have a good case, but I wanted to hear you guys' opinion on it first.
I mean, yeah, I think so. There's enough Christmas in it for it to be deemed a Christmas movie. Plus, I mean, the fight takes place on Christmas Day. So,
Jason, what about you? Do you find Rocky IV to be a Christmas movie?
I'm one of those ones that don't think that Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
All right, Jason, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. That's
nope. Yep. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I don't really look at this as a Christmas movie. I know the fight takes place on Christmas, around Christmas, but I always think of like Christmas movies as having like some type of, and I mean, I guess you really could say it has like the ending that, you know, a Christmas movie would have, but I just don't get that feel with it. Yeah, I mean, I just don't see it as a Christmas movie.
All right, here's my case. I'm glad you actually said that it's not, because then I can present my case to you, and then you can come up with a final decision after that. As we know, and if you're wondering what Rocky IV is about before I present my case, this is Rocky Balboa is the world champion of boxing. This superhuman fighter out of Russia decides he wants to invade American boxing. Rocky's buddy Apollo Creed challenges him to an exhibition bout, gets killed in the ring by Drago, so Rocky decides to defend the death of his friend and agrees to fight Ivan Drago. So, my case for this is Rocky has to agree to the Russians' terms for this fight. So, he has to go to Russia, and they decide to have it on Christmas Day. They could have picked any day. In the calendar year, they decided to pick Christmas Day, and I think this is the Soviet Union's way of fucking with America. Like, okay, we're going to take your American hero and fuck him up on Christmas Day. So Rocky has to not only defend his friend Apollo Creed, but he also has to save Christmas for America.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good argument. Yeah, it's the micro.
God damn it. Well, I tried.
No. See, I have another argument.
Okay, go ahead.
When he goes to Russia, when he goes to Russia, There's snow. There you go. There's my argument.
Yeah. And I bet Paulie gets so fucked up, I bet he sees reindeer and Santa Claus.
Yeah, he does mention reindeer. So there you go.
It would still not change your mind?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we tried. This is why it's unconventional Christmas movie month. I'm surprised I haven't gotten any hate mail about this yet. Like, you're a fucking idiot. You're really grasping for straws on this category, but whatever. So I was looking. We've are 122 episodes in. First time we've ever done a Rocky movie. So I wanted to ask both you guys. First Rocky was 1976. It seems like this franchise is universally beloved. There's really not a turd in the group except for Rocky 5. I don't acknowledge its existence. I've seen it twice. We'll never watch it again. But I wanted to ask you, gentlemen, Jason, since you're our guest, I'll ask you first. What's the appeal of Rocky? Why is this character and these movies lasted so many years and still like are culturally significant, still super popular to this day? Why do you think that is?
I mean, Rocky's the classic underdog, and people love the underdog. I mean, if you took a look at Rocky, I mean, you would see this 5 foot nothing, probably 190 pounds soaking wet, and he's out going toe to toe with world champion boxers, and it's just the appeal of the underdog taking it to the superior athletes.
And he wasn't even supposed to get that fight. He was a last minute sub.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the classic underdog story, and it's about right. And you hear these quotes all the time through the movie, and you even use them yourself. It's just rising above the overwhelming odds and coming out on top.
Mm-hmm. Adam, what about you?
I think he touched on a lot of the points I was going to touch on. He's an underdog. I mean, we all like to root for the underdog. And what he learns through his training too is how to fight through pain and fight through adversity and get through all of that. And I think that resonates on a human level because we all face adversity and we all feel like underdogs ourselves at some point. So I think that a lot of people connect with that.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I was going with too. I mean, just like movie fans love an underdog. I think when you think of like underdog movies, I think Rocky's the template that every movie after 1976 follows. It's like, have to throw adversity on top of adversity, on top of like all these bad situations that a character has to overcome. It just seems like that's the template, and it was perfected by Rocky. And then subsequently they kind of get a little bit over the top. I think the boxing sequences are kind of the appeal too. It just like boxing, like if boxing were like they are the Rocky movies, I mean, like I would probably watch it more often because it's not really boxing. It's just fucking Street Fighter basically. But yeah, I think you guys are right though. I mean, just it's the timeless underdog story that just appeals to everybody. I mean, everybody's been kicked down at one point or another, and you've had to pull yourself up to persevere. So good call, guys. Good call. You guys ready to dig into some categories? I've kind of spiced this up a little bit. I kind of tinkered with some of these categories, so there's going to be a couple of new ones. So I hope you guys are on your toes, quick on your feet today. Tail of the Tape. This was released on November the 27th, 1985. This stars Sylvester Stallone, Talia Shire, Burt Young, Carl Weathers, Dolph Lundgren, and Brigitte Nielsen. This was directed by Sylvester Stallone. A Rotten Tomatoes score of 39% from critics and 79% from audiences. The critical consensus was Rocky IV inflates the action to absurd heights, but it ultimately rings hollow thanks to a story that hits the same basic beats as the first three entries in the franchise. Box office, this had a $28 million budget and grossed $300 million. Didn't win any awards. Did get nominated for some Razzies, as we've touched on. The Razzies are like the opposite of the Oscars. It celebrates the worst movies of the year. And you can watch this on HBO Max or Max or whatever it's called now. Apparently it could be Paramount Max before long from what I was reading today, but we'll dive into that another time.
Paramount Max, Discovery, and Knuckles.
Yeah, it's going to be like Twitter, like we call it Twix here on the show.
Yeah. Or the top.
Did you know some fun facts and tidbits about the movie? In 2001, Stallone released a new version of the movie titled Rocky IV: Rocky vs. Drago. Even though the new cut is only 2 minutes longer than the original, it contains over 40 minutes of never-before-seen footage, including the removal of Paulie's beloved robot, and it also cuts out some of the Bridget Nielsen stuff. Did either one of you guys see the new Rocky IV cut?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's a completely different movie. I mean, they touch on like Rocky giving up the belts to fight Drago in Russia, which they basically just throw you a couple newspaper clippings at it. Yeah, it's a totally different movie. I think it's probably a nostalgia, but I prefer the original over the new cut.
Yeah. Okay.
But I definitely recommend checking it out. It's really good, but
I mean, at least the robot's cut out.
I got a question about that robot and Paulie here coming up later on. I think Jason knows exactly where I'm going because I think him and I have talked about it before. To make the fight between Rocky and Drago seem as intense as possible, Stallone suggested he and Lundgren hit each other for real. And I guess the Lundgren was punching Stallone in the rib cage, and it caused Stallone's heart to enlarge, and it like basically pressed up against his breastbone. And Stallone had to go to the hospital for 4 days. His blood pressure shot up over 200. Had trouble breathing and stuff. But yeah, I guess, and I guess also things with Carl Weathers and Lundgren got physical too.
Yeah. Yep.
And they were talking shit, and like I guess Carl Weathers stormed off the set for a few days, and then Stallone had to basically play peacemaker and get him to come back.
Did he quit?
I think he was threatening to quit. I think Stallone got him to come back.
Yeah. Okay.
James Brown's Living in America became a top 40 hit and would become the first song in 11 years by the artist to do so. It was also the last time he accomplished the feat. That's a catchy tune, though. Spotify has this feature called DJ, where they'll play random songs that you may have listened to. And about 3 months ago, I must have listened to that song one time, and it was playing like he always comes on in between like the songs he plays. He'll say like, you know, like here's some songs you haven't played in a while. And it was the first fucking song that came on was Living in America. I'm like, okay. So skipping it, I just turned it up.
Nice.
I thought this was kind of a cool fact. This was the highest grossing film in the Rocky series, and this was the highest grossing sports movie until The Blind Side in 2009.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's surprising. I would have thought there was way more.
And also, fun fact, I've never seen The Blind Side.
That's all right.
Oh.
Say no more.
Yeah.
If this were a video podcast, both your expressions would be like, okay, that's all I need to know. This is the first movie not scored by Bill Conti, as he was working on the Karate Kid 1 and 2, so he was replaced by Vince DiCola, which, let's be real here, that Rocky 4 score is pretty banging, especially during the fight sequence at the end.
Oh, yeah.
The original cut of Rocky IV was an hour longer than the cut that was released in theaters. To maintain the flow of the story, a third of the movie is made up completely of montages.
Yeah, you can tell.
Well, I somebody went through and actually like timed how much of the movie is just strictly montages, and it's like 31.4% of this movie is strictly montages.
A lot of montage.
Peter Cetera, I think he plays in the band Chicago. I don't know, but I do know that a friend of the show has been on here a couple times. Steven absolutely adores the song Glory of Love. Peter Cetera actually wrote this for Rocky IV, but United Artists decided to pass on it, so then it was featured in The Karate Kid 2.
Okay.
Bridget Nielsen, who plays Ivan Drago's wife, Ludmilla.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah.
She married Sylvester Stallone shortly after the premiere of the film, and they were married for about a year and a half.
Surprised it lasted that long.
Well, I had read a story that apparently she's in Beverly Hills Cop 2. Apparently her and Eddie Murphy were kind of fooling around a little bit. Stallone caught wind of it. That's the rumor.
Mm-hmm.
That was not confirmed by Bridget Nielsen's party or Eddie Murphy's when I tried to reach out for a comment. Of course, the first thing he says, like, "Who are you?" And the second one was like,
Nah.
This is a big nah, dog. Last one I got is Stallone and MGM were sued by Timothy Anderson for copyright infringement. Anderson claimed he wrote a treatment for Rocky IV, but his script was rejected. Anderson would go on to claim that the script used for Rocky IV was similar to the one he had wrote, but the court shot his case down, saying he had no basis to sue them for copyright infringement, as Stallone is the person who's developed these characters in the first 3 movies. So they gave him the big fuck you. That's all I got. Adam, you got anything you want to add to these fun facts?
I didn't have any, as per usual, I didn't have any facts per se, but I had a couple of different goofs that I wanted to enlighten people with.
Well, I think we really need to make that its own category. We just have to come up with a good name for it.
We do. But you and I were talking before the podcast too about some of the goofs, like when Apollo is pointing at Drago and says, "I want you." He's not wearing any gloves, but when they cut back to him, he is. His gloves are randomly on. And it happens a little bit earlier in the movie too, when he's throwing stuff for the dogs, and they cut back to him and he still has it in his hand. It's just, well, we don't care about that. Continuity. Who needs it? And there's a couple of different translation errors in the last scene after he beats Drago, and he's making his speech. There is a point where he said something along the lines of, 2 people killing each other is better than 20 million. And the Russian translator translates it as $20 million. But learned that they cut that out of the director's cut. So, I mean, they fixed it at least. Those are the only 2.
I did tell you before we started too that when Duke is giving Rocky his big speech right before they cut into a montage, it must have shaken Stallone so much that he actually refers to Duke by his real name, Tony. He goes, "Thanks, Tony."
Yeah.
And like for the longest time, like, who the fuck's Tony? And like, oh, Tony Berg plays Duke. Jason, did you have anything you wanted to?
I think you pretty much hit on everything that I had. I mean, it's just your 1980s class. I mean, seemed like all the villains in 80s movies were from Russia or Soviet, and it's just your run-of-the-mill 80s sports or USA versus Russia type movie.
Yeah, it's like it seemed like each era of film has like 40s and 50s. It was probably the Nazis, and then once the Cold War was a thing, it was cool to hate the Russians, and then of course once the Soviets and the Americans became cool with each other for a while, let's move a little further east, make them bad people, and now it's It should be rich people. Like rich people should be like villains in movies now, but
Yeah,
I'm not getting into
they
that.
should.
Getting into that tonight.
Speaking of the villains in the movies, I feel like I was kind of sympathetic towards the Russians at the beginning of this movie, and then because they came to America and all the Americans hate them, and they're not doing anything wrong until Apollo Creed dies, and you hate Drago because he killed Apollo Creed. But at the beginning of the movie, you're just like, hey, they came over here to fight you. Like it's not like they're trying to start a war or anything.
Well, technically they were. They were trying to take on America's like King of the Ring, Rocky Balboa.
Right.
And he's American.
As the movie progresses, you hate them, but
when you said that though, I wish I was young enough to have seen this in theaters, because like when you see it, and like as many times as we've seen this movie, like Apollo's death really doesn't, like, okay, Apollo, like, all right, here comes where Apollo gets killed. But I think that would have been like a real big thing if you would have seen that in a movie theater. Like, oh shit, they killed Apollo Creed off.
Yeah.
And that seems to be like a Stallone thing too, just like killing off all the major characters in the Rocky series. He's the only one left.
I mean, I feel like a couple of different movies can learn from that. I feel like stakes need to be higher in certain movies.
Well, you never know. Maybe Marvel will reach out to Stallone, like, hey, can you do for us what you did with the Rocky movies?
Yeah, they need.
All right, the Martin Scorsese This is Cinema Award for the best or your favorite scene of the movie. Jason, what is your favorite scene in the movie?
Okay, so it's when they're walking to the ring and Paulie's giving that little speech to Rocky about how he admires him, or he wants to be him, and he's never treated him like a bum, even though he really is a bum. He doesn't really do anything. He's just like, he's kind of, he knows this could be the end. I mean, he was there for Apollo. He saw what happened. And now his brother-in-law has gone to fight. And he's just letting him know, like, if I could trade places with you, I would. And then they get out into the ring, and Drago steps in, and Paulie makes that, hey, Rock, remember when I said I wanted to be you? Forget it. Just walks out of the ring. And yeah, that's my favorite part in the movie. I love Paulie, and he finally, he's always a bit of a smart ass and a hard ass. And then he had that soft moment, and then he went right back to, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't say, thanks for buying me that robot after I damn near started a race war in Rocky 3.
Yeah, no kidding.
Adam, what was your favorite scene in the movie?
I really like, of course, I love the fight scene, but that's going to be like, it's going to be everybody's favorite. So I'm going to go with my other favorite, which is when Duke is talking to him in the cabin, talking about Apollo, and
you mean Tony?
Tony. Talking about Apollo and how he was like a son to him, and now Rocky has to avenge him, and he just psyching him up for the fight, and I just like the bonding that they had there. It's really cool.
I'm actually a bit shocked that neither one of you guys mentioned one of the numerous montages. So I'm going to fucking do it. I debated between the No Easy Way Out, because I've told many friends, like, if you get murdered in the ring by a gigantic Russian boxer, I'll play this song and like just angrily shift gears as I'm driving down the street. But I don't know anybody that's going to fight like a Russian boxer anytime soon. I think I have to go with the Hearts on Fire training montage. If for any reason, when he's like doing the, he's got when Rocky's got Duke, Paulie, and Adrian in that cart, And then like you're getting towards the end of the song, and then like you hear that it starts to pick up the pace of that dun, 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 and then like he's struggling to pick it up. I'm like, fuck, Rocky's gonna win this. He's gonna fucking win it. I've seen this movie hundreds of times. It still fucking gives me goosebumps every time he picks that card up. Like when he's struggling, I'm like, yep, it's got to be it. I will say though, runner up is the last round of the fight between him and Drago. When Vince DiCola's, I think that song's called War, his piece, and then it starts to pick up when it's the last round, and like the song picks up, and Rocky and Ivan just like they're just beat to shit, and like they just will themselves to get off the, get out of the stool one last time to fucking end it. That's pretty close second too, but I'm going to give it to the Hearts on Fire montage.
No, I'm gonna be completely honest. Since I didn't get to watch this movie anytime in a timely manner before this podcast, I should say, I kind of fast forwarded through the montages because I knew they were montages. I'm like, oh, montage.
Honestly, the montages are the best part of the movie for me. It's almost like I just want to skip to the next one. But all great choices, gentlemen. Yeah, I mean, this movie, like, it was really hard to pick one. There's just so many. But so we'll call that one a tie.
Okay.
The Andy Dufresne Get Busy Living or Get Busy Dying Award for the best or most quotable line of the movie. This one was also tough. Adam, I'll let you lead off. Any particular line or piece of dialogue stick out to you?
I really like "If he dies, he dies." I don't know why. I just like every time he says it, he just stares at the camera. Love that line.
Drago only has like 6 lines of dialogue that you can actually understand in this movie. Is either he's screaming in Russian or it's like he's just staring very icily at people. But between I will break you and then like if he dies, he dies, like those are 2 of the most quotable lines in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jason, what about you, man? What was your pick?
Well, it was going to be "If he dies, he dies," because who hasn't fought their brother and left them laying and saying, hey, if he dies, he dies.
See, this is why him and I get along, because him and I have had murderous relationships with our brother. Like, I think because we both have younger brothers, we've tried to kill them, or like there's been a all-out Donnybrook where it could have resulted in a death, but it didn't.
But I'll say another one. So during the fight, when in between rounds, Rocky says, "I see 3 of him out there," and Paulie comes with the one liner, "Hit the one in the middle," and then Duke, hit the one in the middle. And I regularly use that one if I hit something, hit my head on something. Oh, I see 3 of them out there. You always find out what kind of friends you have when you make that comment and someone says, "Well, hit the one in the middle."
Yep.
But my wife's never seen the Rocky movies, so I don't get a response from her when it's said.
My wife, I think she's seen Creed, and that's it. That's the one I dragged, because I probably dragged her to see it.
I honestly don't think my wife's seen any of them. So.
Well, you know what? We'll just have to fucking change that. We'll just have to rent a big projector and just do like fucking big, like just camp out in a parking lot and just fucking show them. Like, you ladies are going to sit here and watch these, and we're going to check back in on you in like 6 hours with food, and you finish them off, and then we'll come back later on. And then you ladies have to give us a full report on what you think. Of course, they'll probably be gone within like 10 minutes. Like, fuck them.
Oh no! See, we need a chaperone so that we know that they watch the entire thing. So what we do is we get pizza, we get drinks, and we have a Rocky marathon.
And guard dogs.
Make sure they'll. Yeah.
It's like sick. I know for me, I think if he dies, he dies is probably what I would go with. simply because it's like, it's the most iconic line from the movie. Although watching this a couple days ago, I think I'm going to start using this in my house when my kids get out of control. And like basically my wife and I have pretty much just, all right, we're fucking done. Like we give up. I'm going to start yelling at her, just throw in the towel.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to start using that. But I think, yeah, if he dies, he dies. Has to be it. Because can you imagine him saying that now in like the social media era? Like he'd be fucking burned at the stake for that.
Yeah.
But,
canceled Ivan Drago.
Well, he's Russian, so no one's going to give a shit anyways. They hate him already. So, let's see. There really isn't anything unintentionally hilarious, so we're going to skip that category. Okay, I'm really curious to get your guys' input on this one. The McLovin for the best or scene-stealing performance of the movie. Jason, who would you go with? You can't go with Dolph Lundgren because he's in the movie too much. I think Paulie's kind of disqualified too. But
I think I want to go with the son when he's got his little group of friends at the house and they're watching the fight on the TV and they're going absolutely crazy. Like I love that scene since I first saw this movie. It's just it got you so fired up because it made I was 5 when this movie came out. And I probably saw it for the first time sometime in that range. And it just kind of felt like, that's me that was watching that fight and reacting that way.
okay.
Good call.
What about you, Adam?
So part of this category is scene stealing. So I'm going to go with the Godfather of Soul, James Brown. So, he literally steals the scene. That's such a you can't look away either. It's just, you have to start watching from beginning to end when it starts. So
I had either Tony Burton as Duke, simply because I love that character so much. Like he is probably like my favorite like supporting performer in the Rocky series. I fucking love Duke. That question about him versus Mickey may come up in a little bit. I don't know, but I'm going with James Brown as well. And did you know in the credits of the movie, he's not listed. It says James Brown as the Godfather of Soul. He's not called like James Brown as himself. And I love it because like watching it, being a big Saturday Night Live fan, it really seems like James Brown is doing Eddie Murphy's James Brown from Saturday Night Live.
Too hot in the hot tub.
Yep. But yeah, like that whole scene is pretty good with him in it, and I actually almost consider that as my favorite scene of the movie, simply because it goes into the introductions where you go through like Apollo Creed's like 200 nicknames, which that could come up here in a minute. So save your thoughts for that. The Welcome to Dumpsville Population U Award for the performer you'd recast. I really wouldn't recast anybody in this. It's cast pretty well. I mean,
maybe one of the Russian government guys, like any one of them, because I feel like they're forgettable.
Oh, like the promoter, which they basically stole like 2 Russian professional wrestler names, just combined them into one.
Yeah.
Nikolai Koloff.
Yeah.
Right.
The unsolved mysteries of the movie. I was kind of dwelling on this one a bit. Who becomes the heavyweight champion of the world once Rocky gives up the titles? Because I mean, I'm sure that going into this, like Rocky versus Drago is like the big fight that everyone's talking about, but there's also a vacant world championship that needs to be decided. So it's kind of curious on who would be fighting for that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether go back to Clubber Lang?
That's what I was thinking. Or Clubber Lang was going to be one of the fighters fighting for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I mean, we don't really know what happens to him too much after the events of this movie, but I'm pretty sure that, considering his pedigree, that his only loss is to Rocky. So it makes me wonder if they don't do a third fight. Well, no, they can't do a third fight because then we find out in Rocky 5 that Paulie pisses away all their money and Rocky's completely broke. He can't fight anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Clubber's the champion of the world at this point. Do they even say who's the champion in Rocky 5 after that's her? Because like I said, I've seen it twice and I don't really want to remember it, but I know you said it's kind of fresh in your memory, Jason. So do they mention that at all, or?
You know, I don't think they ever actually mention who the champ is. I just know that Tommy Gunn is fighting for the world championship, and he kind of gets blocked by Rocky because he doesn't think Tommy's ready. But they never really mention who that world champion is. And that's what kind of leads to the fight at the end of the movie between Rocky and Tommy. It's just, Rocky was trying to protect him because, Mick was giving Rocky cream puffs. And, after he became the world champion in part 3, and he was kind of avoiding Clubber Lang. And he just didn't want, Tommy to rush right into fighting someone that may have been, a little more seasoned. But I really don't think they ever mentioned who the world champion was.
Well, I looked up the plot of Rocky 5, and it says that George Washington Duke attempts to goad Rocky into fighting his boxer, Union Kane, who is the top-ranked challenger, but Rocky declines.
Yeah, he's not really the champ. He's just, he wants that fight against Rocky because of the name value. But, he had given up the belts to fight Drago, so he wasn't the champion. But then it was, that who I think is absolutely hilarious, that character is absolutely hilarious in Rocky 5.
He says one of my favorite lines in any movie, regardless of whether it's a comedy or a drama. When Rocky's getting ready to hit him, he says, "Touch me and I'll sue." Just
Rocky
the delivery.
jacks him up.
Yep, just the delivery on it. And I forget that actor's name off the top of my head, but yeah, like he is laughably awesome. It's like he's trying to do Don King, but he just takes it up a notch. But but yeah, I guess that kind of puts holes in our theory on Clubber Lang being the champion. So did Clubber Lang retire then? He's like, you know what, Rocky beat me. I can't do this anymore. I'm done.
Yeah, well, I know at the end of Rocky 3, like they have that mutual respect for each other. But
I'm still gonna fuck your wife, Rocky.
So, oh God, Mr. T, and he also fought Thunder Lips, the Ultimate Male.
Yeah, which is the nickname that I had for my brother for a couple of years. Did take off the way I had hoped, but
yeah.
Also inadvertently started Hulkamania because Hulk Hogan took off shortly after his appearance in that movie.
Yep. So I googled it. They Google seems to think it's Clubber Lang. I mean it's literally in big text. First option.
Well, the thing with that though is, like, Rocky 5 takes place like immediately after Rocky 4, right?
Yeah. Well,
it's like right after he gets back from Russia, it's like he finds out he's broke.
Yeah, he finds out that Paulie got goaded into signing those papers, and it cost him everything that he had, and the house and the cars, and end up moving back to their old Philly neighborhood.
bigger
And
unsolved mystery is why the fuck did Rocky trust Paulie with his money?
exactly.
Yeah. That's the mystery there.
Well, we'll just devote like an entire episode to what possessed him to think that was a good idea. Like that'll just be a whole episode. We just crack that code. I don't know, a lot of time issues between Rocky 4 and Rocky 5, so I don't know because like Rocky's son is mysteriously like a teenager after being an 8-year-old kid, like months after. I it makes my head hurt trying to fucking wrap around what's all going on with that. So
yeah,
isn't his kid like 3 or 4 in the last movie before this one?
in Rocky 4, he's like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And then
the kid grows up fast.
Yeah, then he's like a fucking teenager. Like Stallone's son is plays his son in Rocky, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember his son is in Rocky Balboa he's played by that actor from This Is Us, the guy that
Milo.
Go ahead. You fuck it up because I want to break the tradition of me fucking up somebody's last name in this show. I do it every episode.
Let's see, Milo. I'm just gonna call him like Ventilator.
Okay, that'll work.
Milo Ventilator.
The guy from This Is Us that everybody thinks is the perfect husband and father and all that jazz. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going with Google. Google says Clubber Lang is the champion of the world. That's what we're going with because obviously whoever wrote Rocky 5 did not understand the fuck concept of time. Must not watch Back to the Future. Jason, since you were last on the show, we did introduce a new category. We call it the most insert the year moment of the movie. So we're going to do the the most 1985 moment of the movie. So I'm going to present to you guys the most 1985 moment of Rocky 4 is boxing is still being significant in sports culture because now it's like an afterthought. It's kind of in the United States, especially probably behind. I don't know. Soccer is actually starting to gain some steam here. The big four, obviously, it's definitely not as popular as UFC. That's kind of taken boxing's place as like the top combat sport. So that's my pick because people actually give a shit about boxing then. They don't so much anymore.
Yeah.
You guys got a contender for this?
I do actually.
All right, Adam.
The tech that they use to train Ivan Drago is very 1985.
I will also say that technology too is like actually significant because they use a lot of like computers and things like that to help train athletes better now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the technology itself that they're using is like old as fuck. That they donated that to a school like in like 91 and they used it for like 7 or 8 years before it completely went to shit. So
yeah, definitely the tech for sure.
Jason, do you have one?
Yeah, I'll come up with one. How about a steroid-induced Russian villain?
Oh yeah, that's a good call too. Steroids in general, and that's the stigma that steroids like turns you into like a mean, ruthless, nasty human being.
Yeah.
That's a good call too. Yeah, which we found out later on, like, steroids don't cause like rage or anything like that, right?
Okay.
All right, we'll go with it. Sure. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV. Hot off the skillet takes. Still have not found a restaurant sponsorship for this yet, so we're going with the Cracker Barrel presents the hot off the skillet take for your hottest take regarding Rocky 4. Jason, do you have a hot take regarding this movie?
I do. I don't look at
besides it not being a Christmas movie.
And that, yeah. I don't look the older I get, the more I don't look at Drago as being the necessarily the main villain in this. I mean, he barely says anything. He's being injected with steroids. We don't know if the Russian government is forcing this upon him and he's just doing it because they'll probably kill him if he don't. I mean, he's a freak athlete. I look at more of the villain as his wife and the promoter. I mean, they're, you know, trying to pass this off as a legit boxer, and they know he isn't. And I mean, like you said it earlier, he's got like 6 lines in the movie. I mean, he's just doing what, he's being like what I feel like he's being forced to do. Mm-hmm. But then, you get into the fight scene, and the end when Rocky finally cuts him, that's when it's like you realize he's human, and it just that was the turning point in the fight. And honestly, I kind of I feel bad for him as an adult. As a kid, I hated him. But now it's just kind of like, you hear all this stuff about the Russian government. I mean, were they forcing him to do this? Did he want to do this? Or is this just something that he had to do to, not be killed? Russians always wanted to be dominant in every sport. I mean, was it the 80 steroid scandal with Moscow?
Well, it was proven Olympics, that a lot of the Eastern European athletes that competed in the Olympics in like the 80s and the early 90s were all like on performance enhancing drugs. I mean, that was pretty much a given. I mean, you could see, like, especially knowing what we know now about like steroids and like testosterone and all that stuff, we know now, they were definitely on something.
Yeah. So, I mean, at this point in my life, I don't really look at him as the villain in the movie. He was just doing what I feel he was forced to do.
He was playing the loyal soldier.
Yeah. The real villain is, the wife, the promoter, the Russian government.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Even though Mikhail Gorbachev was cheering for Rocky at the end.
Yeah.
Adam, do you have a hottest take?
Yeah, I do. And you're not going to agree with me on this one. I know you're not. There are too many montages in this movie.
That's not a hot take. That's just fucking wrong. That's the wrong take. But go ahead. Go into detail why you think.
Well, you said it earlier. What is it? A third of this movie is montage or something like that.
Yeah, the reason why it's filled with so many montages is the fact that he had to cut over an hour of the movie, to get down to an hour and a half. So to kind of continue, like, to keep the story, I guess for Rocky, like the late Rocky purposes, as coherent as possible. Like, let's be real, 3 and 4, not exactly the most coherent of stories. I mean, there's a lot of fucking holes in the plots of these, but they're still entertaining as fuck. But to have that semblance of like keeping some kind of like order to the story, he had to do the montages as a storytelling technique.
See, I feel like that just proves my point even more. I feel like it's more of a crutch. Because, I mean, if you have that hour of footage that you keep in the movie to keep the story coherent, well, who cares if it's 2.5 hours? It's a good movie, right? So, not that I'm saying that Rocky IV is a bad movie. It's not. It's a great movie. It's one of my favorite Rocky movies. Just there's too many montages.
Well, I think that what they did, especially in this era too, is like the shorter the movie, the more showtimes you can have it playing at. Because this is, keep in mind, this is before the era of the multiplexes where you have like the 20 theater, like gigantic theaters. Like here in town for the longest time, we had a 5-screen multiplex before they opened up the Cinema 10, like when like 5 or 6 years later. And before that, like we had one cinema that had 1 screen, and we had another one that had 2.
Yeah.
So you can maximize the amount of showtimes you're getting by making a shorter movie.
You're proving my point even more.
Well, see, it's all about money. I mean, like, granted, like, the montages, no, like, the montages are classic. I will never get rid of them. You could have kept those, and it still could have been, like, an hour longer.
See,
I'd be perfectly fine with
one training montage because it's Rocky. You have to have a training montage. But this one has, like, what, 3? I think there's 3.
There's 2.
There's 2?
Well, there's 2. There's the one where it shows him training and like Drago training, and like they're kind of showing like this new, like they're using like all these different like drugs and like all this modern technology on one hand, and then you've got Rocky climbing a fucking mountain, which still blows my mind he was able to fucking do that in like that coat. Like, it's gotta be pretty fucking cold. And like that's a hey, let me throw on my jacket real quick before we go out to dinner kind of code. It's not like, hey, I'm going to be in the fucking Russian mountains scaling this hill. But
the last montage is so long, though, that they have to cut it in half because they start it with him running. Like, you know, every other montage, they start with him running. And then he's like sawing the log. And then Adrian comes and they cut it there and they have that scene. And then they continue the montage after she's there.
Well, if they didn't, you wouldn't have gotten that awesome Hearts on Fire montage.
That's true.
And we wouldn't have had we wouldn't have had 7-year-old me get super fucking fired up about it.
See, I'm
wanting to fight my 5-year-old brother.
But that's my hot off the skillet take.
Adam, I don't think that's a hot take. I think you're just asking for attention. All right, here's my hottest take. I think Duke is a better trainer than Mickey.
No, I agree. So
it's not a hot take at all.
No, it's probably a hot take.
Well, I know there's like the Mickey camp. Probably the older Rocky fans probably like in the Mickey camp, and then there's the younger ones that are in the Duke camp. I just think that like Mickey got him through, taught him like the basics, got him through his first fight with Apollo Creed, and he got him through, he helped him win a title. But then, like, the 2 toughest opponents in the Rocky franchise, Duke was Rocky's trainer. Yep. Duke got him through it. Of course, I mean, Mickey does fucking die right before he fights. Or was that after? He dies after that.
Yeah, he has the heart attack after the run-in with Clubber Lang, and Rocky has to go out and fight while Mick's fighting for his life. And then after he loses the fight, that's when Mickey dies.
That still breaks my fucking heart, though. He goes, God damn it, go out there and fight, Rock, because Mickey loves you. Still fucking gets me teared up every time.
My favorite part in that movie.
Oh, besides, like, in Rocky 3, besides the Mr. T basically telling Rocky he's going to fuck his wife.
And, Mr. T was such a believable boxing bad guy. Like, he was the guy that you would pay to see get beat the hell up. But you knew whoever he was going to fight. Okay, I'm just going to say it. I would be more scared of Clubber Lang than I would be of Ivan Drago.
Well, I think a lot of it is Clubber Lang's attitude. I mean, like, you've got the silent assassin in Ivan Drago, then you've got Clubber Lang, who's just fucking, like, he's essentially like Apollo Creed turned up to 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I totally agree with that take.
I mean, you got Drago, who's 6'5", 265, and Mr. T, it's like 5'4", 200 pounds. Yeah, I'd be more scared of Mr. T, Clubber Lang. I mean, I just couldn't deal with the running the mouth the whole time. I mean, yeah, Drago's gonna stare me down, but this guy's gonna completely run me down and then beat the hell out of me.
And then fuck your wife.
Yeah.
And I would have believed it too. Like, I seriously think he would have like charmed the shit out of Adrian and like just left.
Yep.
She would have just left Rocky and went with Clubber Lang, but it didn't happen that way. I did change up the next category, the Hall of Fame. Changed it up a little bit. We're calling this now the Hall of Fame plaque. This is going to be if this actor or director, whomever, is inducted into the Hall of Fame, this movie be featured on their Hall of Fame plaque. So, would Rocky IV be featured on Sylvester Stallone's Hall of Fame plaque? I'm going to say no. And I say that because Rocky 1 and then there's Rambo First Blood would be like the two movies he's probably known most for. So, would it be Rocky or would it be Rambo?
Probably Rocky. I think Rocky, Rambo has its place. I think Rocky is more ubiquitous among people that don't generally watch Sylvester Stallone movies.
Yeah, I think Rocky is a little bit more culturally significant. He's still relevant today versus Rambo's kind of like more a relic of the 80s. I mean, First Blood's still one of the best action movies of all time. That movie still fucking rocks.
Yeah.
And I still think that the last few that they did were pretty enjoyable, but you could tell like they're really just, if made today, like outside of First Blood, they really don't, they're just kind of a standard run of the mill action movie. And I think it's probably largely in part just due to Sylvester Stallone, like basically like he just took a template and he just ran with it with a bunch of different movies, him and Schwarzenegger. So I would say Rocky would be on Stallone's Hall of Fame plaque. The first one since it got a Best Picture nomination. He was nominated for Best Actor, and it kind of launched him into like being a superstar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Yeah. The last question or category we have is this is called the Burning Questions. This is where I'll ask you guys a couple of random questions. Just get your takes on it real quick. When we were talking about Clubber Lang and Drago, like made me wonder who do you guys think is Rocky's greatest opponent? And I'll give you the names of the guys he has fought. He has fought Apollo Creed twice. Fought Clubber Lang, fought Ivan Drago, Tommy Gunn, and Mason the Line Dixon, which I don't know who fucking come up with that name, but they really need to get their screenwriting guild card revoked because that's fucking horrible. So, who would Rocky's greatest opponent be? I mean, I think we kind of already know the answer, but I just wanted to get your guys' take on it.
I'm going to go with Apollo.
I'm going to go with Apollo as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
that's the
because-
answer.
Yeah, I mean, just because both fights were so close and so evenly matched, and they were kind of like just your Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, or
Joe Frazier.
That's the right, yeah, Joe Frazier. They were just the perfect opponents for each other, and no matter how many times they fought, I think you would tune in to watch it.
Mm-hmm. And apparently there was a third fight too that nobody knows who won.
Yeah.
Ding,
Yeah.
ding. Adam, you said Apollo as well.
Yeah, I'd say Apollo as well. I mean, usually in movies like this and in other media, when somebody finds their rival, you either end up really hating the rival, and becomes like a villain in a sense, or the rival actually becomes the best friend. And usually when the rival becomes the best friend, they're the greatest rival. So I think that's what happened here in Rocky. It's just that stereotypical rival that he had, and they became really, really good friends. And I think that speaks volumes to who his greatest opponent was.
Yeah, it's you guys just basically touched on that same thing. Apollo. I would say that Clubber and Drago for sure warrant some consideration, but yeah, it's got to be Apollo Creed. Second question I have for you, gentlemen: did Paulie try to bang that robot he got as a birthday gift?
Definitely.
Yes.
Do you think he was successful, or did somebody catch him? Or I've always thought this, but I've always kind of wondered if other people thought the same as I did. I know they seem to be friendly, but it makes me wonder if Paulie just didn't crack open. I'm sure there's probably a lot of really good liquor in Rocky's liquor cabinet at the house, and I'm sure he's probably down more than a few bottles of it. And it just made me wonder if
oh yeah.
See, the reason why I say the reason why I say no, and the only reason I say this is because if he did, there would be a scene where his hair was all staticky because he tried to stick it somewhere where it didn't belong. And it didn't happen.
Or they would have done a montage where he kept striking out and then eventually gets successful. All right, third question. Best Apollo Creed nickname. I've got my personal favorite is the Count of Monte Fisto.
Probably mine too.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Trying to think of some of the ones that they were running down through there.
Let's see. I've heard the Count of Monte Fisto, the King of Sting, the Dancing Destroyer. I'm gonna look it up while you guys discuss it further.
The Master of Disaster.
Yeah, the Master of Disaster.
Oh, yes. The Prince of Punch.
Let's see. According to Google, Apollo Creed known aliases: the Count of Monte Fisto, the Dancing Destroyer, the King of Sting, the Master of Disaster, the One and Only, the Prince of Punch, and then the Thane of Pain.
Thane of Pain.
That's great.
I'm still going with the Count of Monte Fisto, though. That's completely original. I would have never in a million years, if I was trying to come up with a nickname for myself, would I come up with that.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
Bonus points to that ring announcer, though. That dude's mustache was on point.
It really was. The mustaches were much different in the 80s. At least the movies I've watched.
I'm trying to think of who that is. That ring announcer famous? Is he a well-renowned boxing announcer? Because I only knew of Michael Buffer, and then who was it? Jimmy Lennon.
Oh yeah, the used car salesman, Jenny Lemon, Jenny Lynn, whatever it is.
Oh yeah, Leroy Neiman. He's an American artist. Was an American artist known for his brilliantly colored expressionist paintings and screen prints of athletes, musicians, and sporting events. So no, he was not a ring announcer. I'll be damned.
That's still impressive though.
Yes, he did the program for the NFL. He did some stuff for Playboy magazine, the Olympics, but was not a ring announcer. That's kind of a shame because I think he had a knack for it.
Yeah.
Plus that mustache, he would have instantly been Michael Buffer before Michael Buffer. Last one I got for you, gentlemen. Did Rocky IV end the Cold War between the United States and Russia?
In the movie universe, yes, it did.
No, I'm talking about in real life because, if you think about it, 1980, the United States boycotts the Moscow games. 84, Russia decides to return the favor. They're not coming to the summer games in LA. Things are pretty frosty. Rocky 5 or Rocky 4 comes out. Then a few years later, there's starting to be arms treaties. The Berlin Wall comes down. And then by 1989, 1990, George Bush and Mikhail Gorbachev saying, like, we're done. So within 4 years of this movie's release, no more Cold War.
I mean, it's a bit of a stretch. There's a lot of heavy lifting by Mikhail Gorbachev. So
they cheered. He was impressed by Rocky Balboa in Russia. They're like, you know what? These Americans are all right. If they all had the heart of Rocky Balboa, then there's some good people over there. And then he also, I'm sure he was, touched by, like, if I can change and yous can change, we all can change. And
let's just say it eased the tension.
Eased the tension. Okay, I'll accept that. I'll accept that answer. It eased the tensions and allowed for some dialogue. And then from there, it ended
a window in the wall.
That's right. All right, well, gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. I greatly appreciate you guys spending a little time with us today, talking a little Rocky 4. Jason, I hope that you sit and think about my case for this being a Christmas movie. Well, let me ask you this. Yeah. Last week we did Lethal Weapon. That was the first episode in our unconventional Christmas movie list. Do you consider Lethal Weapon a Christmas movie? No. My case for it being a Christmas movie is this. The relationship between Riggs and Murtaugh probably wouldn't exist unless Roger Murtaugh was in the holiday spirit and he invited Riggs over to visit his family. It's like, hey, I don't want this guy. He's obviously a loose cannon. I don't want him being alone on Christmas. And then sets forth pretty much one of the best cop duos in the history of movies. All because Murtaugh found in his heart to let Riggs into his house during the holidays.
I mean, fair enough. But yeah, it's still not.
You're a tough cookie to crack, man.
I'll give you a bonus because this wasn't on the Lethal Weapon podcast when we did it because I didn't say it. And it's kind of a downer, really. But there are way more suicides in America during the holidays than any other time of the year. That's a very big plot point of Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, fair enough. Again, still not a Christmas movie.
We'll get him one day, Adam. We'll get him one day. All right, well, guys, it was awesome chatting about Rocky 4. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on episodes each and every week. You can follow us on social media. Just click on the links below in the show description. And if you dig what we're doing here, please be so kind as to take a brief moment to leave us a kind review on Apple or Spotify. So until next week, we will talk to you guys later. Bye.